Admitting some more people in. All right, we got 15 here so far. Hello to everyone who's joining. Thanks for being here today. All right, admitting just a couple more, and then we're going to go ahead and roll through and get started. All right. So I want to thank everyone for coming today. We are here for the Salesforce Loves Insurance. This was kind of a little kick on Valentine's Day yesterday. So now we're having a Galentine's Day where we're going to kind of celebrate some of our insurance women in technology people who are just total rock stars. So we're going to hear from two women today and their career, where they started, how they got to where they are, and how they've become so successful in their particular community. So thanks so much for joining us. Again, thank you all for being here. I know that schedules are insanely busy and people are zoomed out galore. Really excited to kind of have just an open conversation with everyone and do a little more of like a fireside chat today than a presentation, just to kind of talk with some of our rock stars in the insurance community. So thank you to all of you for taking time to be here today. Appreciate it so much. And obviously a big thank you to Natalie and Marquita for coming in and chatting with us today and taking time out of her day. I know that Natalie is feeling just slightly under the weather, so I am loving that she is here. And I actually wore my MVP PJs just to make her feel a little better that she was wrapped up in a blanket because she didn't feel good. I think that we can all attest to not feeling well in the 2021-2022 year these days. So thank you again for all being here. The point of the group is to succeed together. So we've got insurance people from all over the world that come to this. I'm super excited to have a significant amount of people joining us today that I don't think have actually been here before. And we're here to be an open and collaborative environment so that we can help each other. Maybe we've seen business problems that are out there that other organizations are seeing, and we love to have the knowledge share, go back and forth between it all, and really just like to help each other grow and succeed. So excited to succeed with you all here today. I'm going to do just the quick little agenda. We've got our introduction of myself and my fearless co-leader, and a little bit about the group itself. And then we will meet our two WIT rock stars. And then we'll kind of wrap up with some general announcements afterwards and next steps. So I'm Danielle Laffey. I currently work at Silverline, which is a consulting firm. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for going on close to 20 years, which seems almost next to impossible. And I wish that time would stop and I would not be so old. I am principal of insurance solutions. I have been working in the insurance community for about 6 or 7 years in total now. I kind of decided to take on the insurance vertical when the Salesforce ecosystem just started expanding so much. And instead of trying to know a little tiny thing about everything, I decided that I was going to try and learn a lot about certain verticals and some of the products and business issues that go around this particular vertical. And then I'm going to have my fearless co-leader also introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. We're excited to see everybody here today. I'm Pami Singh. I'm co-leader of the group. I also work at a consultancy, HIP10. We are a consultancy focused exclusively on the insurance space. So similarly, get to just dive deep into a vertical I never imagined myself in ever. But yeah, it's very exciting. There are lots of changes in the insurance space. And so we're happy to have this group come together and kind of talk about those business solutions and things that are going on in our industry. And then, yeah, I'll kick it off back to you.
Awesome.
Or maybe to Natalie.
Yeah.
Introductions next.
Yeah, I think that we're going to have Natalie meet up next. So I'll do a real quick intro from me on Natalie. I met her a long time ago, actually. It seems like not very long ago, but it's as we were chatting right before we started here, she came to my first user group. back in the day. That was the first time that we met each other. Got in love with Salesforce, and have been a good friend of hers ever since. So I'm so excited for her to come. She's got a really cool story of where she started, how she got to where she is, and some of the things that she's got to do within the insurance world and Salesforce. So Natalie, thanks so much for being here again. I really appreciate you, especially since you're not feeling the most optimal today. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Sorry, my cat's trying to make an appearance too. So
That's
this is Lisa.
Okay, so just kind of want to kick things off. So just tell me a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So first off, again, thanks for having me. I have been working in the Salesforce space. It's kind of weird because I feel like I don't update my idea of myself very often. So it's like, oh, at 3 years, like I just stay at a time frame for a while. But I would say it's been since late 2013, early 2014. And yeah, my role has evolved throughout that time. I started at an organization that I worked in sales. Actually, I started there in 2012, and then about a year and a half into the sales role, I switched. Or actually, I was like, I want to go back and get my um advanced degree in teaching Spanish because my background is Spanish actually. And so when I put my notice in, I don't know, I guess they were like, well, you know the business, we have some needs to fill, maybe, or maybe you'd be interested in us creating a part-time role for you so that you have some supplemental income while you're studying. And so I did that role, which started out as like lead deduplication using demand tools. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but and that was they had just switched over to Salesforce. So I remember being a user of I don't know if it's still around, CRM, probably shouldn't say that. And then when they did the transition to Salesforce, I was a user, and then that kind of led into helping keep leads deduped. And then over time, I was helping with, reports, like poking around in Salesforce, and kind of had a whirlwind situation when I was in the second year of my degree because I started back full time. They had a data analyst role that they wanted to fill. And so I took that role, and then maybe a month later found out I was pregnant, and I was kind of freaking out, and I was still aggressively pursuing my degree and teaching 2 classes at a local university. So all of that kind of happened, not unplanned. And so I kind of remember having some freak out moments at that time in my life. And Danielle, Eric, he's actually the reason I met Danielle. He was my boss at my old job, and he encouraged me. He sat me down. We had been going to user groups. I was getting more into Salesforce, and he said, hey, like, this is a job, which didn't occur to me because my background was in Spanish. Like, this is a job, and you like are kind of naturally getting it. You can, Trailhead had just come out. He was like, you should hop on Trailhead and start learning more. And I was like, I felt really like I was betraying my background with Spanish. So it took me quite a while to jump on board. That would have been like late 2014. And then, eventually I had other things happen that led me to working at Liberty. Do you want me to go through that?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay. So I remember in 2016, I was a little grumpy because they did not let me go to Dreamforce. And I was like, I'm ready to get invested. I want to learn more. And so, pardon me?
Drink that Kool-Aid.
Yeah, like I didn't even know that term at the time, but I learned it shortly after. And so I was like, not fair. I want to go to Dreamforce. How do I make that happen? And I don't know if I talked to you, or I don't know who I talked to, but realized that there wasn't really an active WIT group in the area. So while my boss was at Dreamforce, like grumpily submitted a form to create the WIT group. And then that led to them pairing me, and I see Lissa's on the call. So Lissa Smith and I started co-leading the user group at the early part of 2017. And then a few months later, she had a role open and at her company and was encouraging me to get it. And I think, if I look at the milestones of people that have been influential in my career in Salesforce, I'm sure hopefully everybody has that. But mine started with Eric saying, dude, there's other options. Like you're good at this, and encouraging me. And then Lissa saying, hey, you'd be really good at this job. And I was such a loyal employee. It was unfathomable for me to think about switching. But then I started at Liberty almost 5 years ago and segued into insurance.
That's awesome. So that kind of answers the question of how you got a job in insurance from Miss Lissa. So hi, Lissa. Nice to see you as well. It's been a minute. I guess what was the changes that you had going from one industry to another, and did you find that it was difficult to make that kind of transition between the different industries that you were in before to insurance?
So yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this is the stuff that I think moving to insurance, first off, the team that I joined was a bit smaller than it is now at the time. So I was lucky to have really seasoned people along with me. I remember feeling really a little stressed out and overwhelmed by I'm so familiar with the business knowledge where I came from, where I kind of had felt I don't belong in Salesforce space there, but I had at least the business knowledge going for me. And then as I was gaining more skills, it kind of turned into now I don't have the business knowledge. But I think that the team did a really good job bringing me on at a pace that was comfortable to me.
Mhm.
And I had really good mentors. I ended up kind of joining right when they were switching to Agile. So that was helpful because we had, Agile training and adjusting there. But then I would say not luckily I was put in a space where there were very knowledgeable people about the specific work I was doing.
Mhm.
Because Liberty is a huge company, and I think one of the coolest things about working out, so I will sound like a spokesperson and I just can't help it. So I just take it for what it is. But the thing I think that is cool about Liberty is there are so many different spaces to get into. And it's very unlikely that you would be left hanging with someone who's not familiar with what you'll be working on. So
Yeah.
you have that advantage of the kind of historical knowledge that people carry, but also I think that they make it a little bit, I don't know, you're quarantined in your specific area of the business. So I've luckily had the opportunity to step in and out of different areas and get exposure to different parts of insurance. But I started out and kind of hanging out in the same place for the first couple of years, which helped me learn those bits of insurance.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I do have one question around the cool solution that you've seen built. Whether you built it or you were part of the team or you saw another team build it, what do you feel as though that's the coolest solution that you've seen so far, and what business problem did it solve?
Okay, I was thinking about this, and it's really hard to answer because, you think of the milestones. I've been at Liberty almost 5 years now, and I've transitioned. I've worked, I would say, intimately with 3 main groups, kind of sidestepping to a fourth. So I would say probably the coolest thing I had the opportunity to do was bring in my Spanish skills. There was a need in 2019 with our team in Chile. They didn't really have a formal Salesforce team to support their org, and they had some work they needed to do, which included transitioning to Lightning. And I felt really thankful and grateful because I got tapped to work on that because I spoke Spanish. And that would have just been something that would have been a little bit more difficult for someone else. So I got to go down to Chile and help them plan out and map out the transition to Lightning, which I had never gotten to work on fully myself in the spaces I was in. And then, one cool thing that we built while we were there is a time tracking capability for, well, actually there's two things, because I see people chatting, and before I got to go down there, we did this awesome hackathon where a few people from stakeholders from Chile came to Indianapolis, and we kind of threw it out there, like, whoever wants to work on this, we're doing this hackathon to set up a lot of that stuff with this new kind of like format they wanted to transition to. And it was incredible. We spent a week working on it. We estimated that I might blow these numbers, but we saved the company like tens of thousands of dollars, because they would have had to use like external people to support it, since they didn't have a team. And then we also all got to like get to know each other as people from multiple different squads across all of the United States. It was super fun. That was an awesome memory. So yeah, I take it back. That was the coolest part of that. And then, oh, go ahead.
I remember when you went to Chile, I was very jealous of your trip. I followed you on Insta or Facebook or social in some way, shape, or form. I remember that. And I also thought that it was so cool that you were able to take a skill that you had that wasn't anything to do with Salesforce at all and bring it into that. And I loved that gave you an edge to be able to advance your career and do some really cool things, because you were able to kind of marry both of them together. And I just love that story. I think that it's really neat.
Yeah. And I think, that's probably, I know, like we'll get to it, but like that's probably, I think, the coolest thing about Salesforce is it is used across so many different industries, that even if you are transitioning into Salesforce, I'm not sure like what the exact demographic of people on the call is, there's a way that your past is useful, not only like just your blatant skills, but also the knowledge you bring from wherever you came from. And I just think that's really cool. And luckily I worked at a company that does have a global presence, or else it might not even occur to me that that was an option, to be honest. Like, everything was a slow process to say, oh, like, okay, I can use my data analyst skills. Like, oh, now it's my Spanish. Like, I didn't even think about that. So yeah. Can I share one more?
Of course.
Okay. And then I would say, like, as I've evolved, I started getting paired with more junior people that were working at the company. So we had specifically an intern internally that I was paired with. And actually it's kind of cool, because Liberty has, it's basically a startup that Liberty owns, for our homepage technology of like our landing page. When you open up your browser, it's like their product. They built it for Liberty, and then Liberty started selling it. So I got paired with her, and I was mentoring her for about a year, but towards the end of the first year, or like the first maybe 6 months she was there, she had a problem that was kind of advanced. And so we started working on this really cool flow that basically solved a problem of, if something was updated on the account, it was in a multi-select pick list, and two different ones. And that's obviously a pain if you're familiar with multi-select pick lists sometimes. And so they wanted a case, or like we call them service requests, but a case created for every value that was added to those pick lists. And it was kind of difficult, because you have to register the change on the field itself. Then you have to go through and be like, is there already a case for this one, for that one, like, and figure out which ones are the different ones. And so that was really fun, because I learned so much from that, just having to parse out values from a pick list. But also, I think from a mentor perspective, that was like the coolest thing, because she grew so much from that. I mean, it took a couple of months, because that wasn't my day job. So like, I couldn't devote all my time to helping her, but it was awesome. And she did a great job. And it was like this is so cool, helping others. So yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So I'm trying to be a little mindful of time for you.
Yeah, thank you.
The last question that I'm going to ask you is, what's the best career advice you've ever received?
That's a really hard question because I have a really bad memory. Like I'm not the person that remembers stuff like I wish I did, but I think it's probably a subset of those experiences I had where people were encouraging me to step outside of my comfort zone and um go for something that I might not have felt like I was ready for or wouldn't have pursued if someone hadn't been there saying, you are great for this, or like, this will be something wonderful for you. And I think like, so thinking of Eric and then like Lissa helping me get my job at Liberty, and then, m- uh, like people encouraging me to explore other things within Liberty in my case. I think it's just, don't ever think that your past doesn't have a means to contribute to like where you go, because I think I had a hard time like resolving that in my mind. So like look at your past as an advantage.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, you're definitely getting some love on here. If you can see on the side, we've got some people talking about how cool you are, and how you kind of just persevere through everything, and ooh, and you might become a coder one day. Where for that?
I did write my first code last year. It was a good feeling, but I don't know that I want to be a developer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Really, really appreciate hearing your story. I'm so blessed to have you around, and have been known you for so long. So I just appreciate you taking the time today. And if you can stick on for a little bit and listen to your actual teammate, we'd love to have you, but totally okay if you need to bounce out too. And
Yeah, I'll probably mute and stop my video and just be a listener.
Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. All right, so we have our next WIT lady up, Marquita Sidibe, and I think that I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hold on, let me get you spotlighted on here. We're gonna replace that spotlight with you. How are you today?
Doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was so excited. I got the pleasure to meet you actually at Dreamforce this year. You were out there for with your crew, and you had some exciting things that happened to you at Dreamforce, I think. I'm not sure if everyone on the call knows. You want to kind of talk a little bit about what happened to you at Dreamforce this year?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me. And my name is Marquita Sidibe, everyone. Yeah, this year's Dreamforce, I was actually on the main stage and gave a little glimpse into my backstory. And it was right after they had debuted the trailer for a series that just recently launched called Trailblazer, where it's following the group of 5 Black Trailblazers, and I'm one of the 5 featured. So yeah, I was on the main stage this past year, last year at Dreamforce. But if you didn't catch that, like my initial background was not in technology and certainly not Salesforce. I was always in the service industry, waiting tables, serving, bartending, even a little bit of like bartending and catering on the side.
Yeah.
And, had reached a point where I couldn't really progress or go any farther in that industry. So, went back to school and landed on software development as a specialty, and outside of anything I'd ever done.
That's so cool. So what made you decide to do software development over anything else when you were looking at schools?
Well, I'm going to date myself here. I've always been fascinated with technology, loved what it produced, but never really knew how to get into it myself. But when I say I'm going to date myself, think back to MySpace when we all had MySpace accounts and we're all tricking our page out with HTML, CSS, making it look as cool as possible. So thinking back to those days, I thought, okay, yeah, I used to be able to do this stuff and make really interesting pages. So what else is out there? Is there graphic design? Like, where would I land if I were to get into technology and take it further? So thought about informatics and maybe even networking, but landed on software development to have that umbrella.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you started in software development in some way, shape, or form. Where did you first hear about Salesforce, or how did you learn about Salesforce?
So Salesforce had been here in Indy under the scenes, and I really didn't know anything about them, but I've read that they were moving into offices in our largest tower here downtown.
Mhm.
It used to be the Chase Tower, and now it's a Salesforce Tower. So I Googled how to learn Salesforce, and this was post after me graduating from the software development course and getting my certification with that.
Okay.
And you hear about a newer tech company coming to town, you just want to Google and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I Googled what is Salesforce, how do you learn it? And then in the search results, there was a indie Salesforce Women in Tech group
Mhm.
with a course for build your first Salesforce app. And so I signed up to take that course. And I see that Lissa's on the call, but Lissa was actually there helping lead the course that day.
Yep.
And we had built like the Battle Station app, but that was my very first Salesforce experience. Like, we got set up on Trailhead, and my very first like taste of the platform. And then later, a former professor had contacted me about this program that was launching called Salesforce Pathfinder that he thought I'd be a good fit for.
Yeah.
And anyone that's on the call that doesn't know what Pathfinder is, it's a workforce development program. And it trains individuals that want to learn Salesforce and later become certified, depending on what cohort they choose. There's different tracks for it.
That's awesome. And so you started into the Pathfinder program. And how did you get into, I guess, what was your first job out of that Pathfinder? Were you assigned to the insurance community immediately? Did you go somewhere else? How did that, talk to us a little bit about that experience?
No, it wasn't a linear path at all. Like after graduating Pathfinder and taking my, I took the admin track, so I took my administrator certification
Mhm.
and did not pass it the first time, but did pass it the second time. And had just basically began my job search, and probably, oh gosh, almost a year after becoming certified, still hadn't quite found the right fit. And after, I remained active in the Women in Tech Salesforce community group
Mhm.
after taking that Battle Station Build Your First App course. But so there was another, like an all user group where they had a panel, and Lissa was actually on that panel and had said that her company, which is Liberty, was hiring and looking for business analysts and encouraged people to apply. And so that's how I got my job at Liberty. I had applied and was hired, but it was not linear. There was a whole lot of searching in between, like actually graduating Pathfinder, getting my cert. Yeah, there was a whole lot of, we've decided to move with another candidate letters in
Yeah.
between that. But yeah, like I just, it's one of those full circle things, like the, same group that I got my first taste with Salesforce and maintained active on Trailhead and the platform, and then Pathfinder and the community group, giving me that pitch to, hey, this company's hiring. So yeah, it's one of those full circle things.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the Indianapolis Salesforce community in general is very active and love to help each other out. And I'm from there originally, so I remember it well and loved it. So was it hard for you to transition to the insurance industry? Did you feel? I kind of asked Natalie the same question. Like, how did you, obviously not having insurance in your background and starting Salesforce and then having to learn the industry on top of it, was that difficult? Like how did you go about teaching yourself the insurance lingo and how everything worked?
It's funny that you use the word lingo. Yes, the short answer to that was difficult because I knew Salesforce, but did not necessarily know insurance. And we have a phrase at Liberty called LLL, Liberty loves acronyms, LLA rather. So we have a lot of acronyms. And so wrapping my brain around that and just the different business processes and for my particular org and how Salesforce could meet those needs, that was difficult in the beginning for me, but I was able to leverage all my customer service, former industry skills, and
Yeah.
leverage that background into, for example, like with our support, prod support system, like I channel into like all those customer service transferable skills that I built up. So that helped a lot as well.
That's awesome. So how long have you been working in Salesforce? How many years?
Professionally in a real org, not Trailhead. It's been since August 5th, 2019. Yeah, so close to 3 years.
Awesome. Awesome. And in that time frame, or maybe even prior to, I don't know, maybe it was the app that Lisa helped you build, but what is the coolest solution you've seen built within your organization and what business problem did it solve?
Ooh, that's a lot. I would say in our particular Salesforce org, like I do a lot of support. Working the support was how I initially learned the org, logging in, aliasing in as different users to see the issues that they were facing. But I would say it's an ongoing solution, but trying to improve our overall prod support request. And that entails making updates to the intake form, which is a screen flow, adding enhancements to that, changing up the case record page, grouping certain fields together that correspond with each other so it makes more sense, easier to navigate through. And one innovation project that I paired up with one of my teammates that's a dev is he actually made like this type ahead text thing to where when a user is inserting into the form on the field their problem, so it pulls up the predictive text that could take them to this. We have a custom FAQ object that's sort of like a knowledge center. So it'll pull up links to the article for the particular issue that they could be facing. So I think that's pretty cool. And there is one more. It's to do with like we have an internal conference called One Team, One Dreamforce, and Natalie was looking for volunteers, and she made a whole Salesforce experience site in like 3 days. And so she was looking for volunteers to help with that. And we also like created a marketing cloud email journey, which was really cool for me. I'd never had a taste of marketing cloud because, as we know, there's no Trailhead sandboxes for it.
Yeah.
That was really cool to get my feet wet with that. As far as the business processes that it solved with our case support, it gives us more insight as to who's working what on our team. So we don't have like just this grab bag mentality. We can see that it's already been assigned to someone and what status it's in. And I guess for the second one, the business process it solved was, instead of just having to go in and send one-off emails for when our events were coming up for our internal conference,
Yeah.
they were already fired off using our marketing cloud journey.
Cool. Cool. It looks like there is a question for support. Was the Service Cloud Super Badge helpful?
Oh, so that's interesting. I have not taken the Service Cloud Super Badge, but we have I have all this implemented using Sales Cloud, because we have Sales Console and just regular Sales Cloud, but we don't have Service or
Awesome. So what's the best career advice you've ever received to date? Maybe it's in Salesforce, maybe it's not. I don't know.
ooh. Definitely in Salesforce would be don't ever be afraid to Google it. If you spend hours staring at something until your eyes glaze over and you've given it your all, Google it. If you don't find it on Google, pull somebody in. That's what I love about Liberty's Salesforce community. Like, we can always reach across teams and pull someone else into something we're facing. And everybody's super just passionate about helping everyone else.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Don't be afraid to Google it. I feel like that's something that I've said to some people coming in back in the day. For sure. Google is a thing. I actually said it to someone today. There's this thing called Google. You could look that up, That's awesome. So I know that you had mentioned it a little bit, that you were on the main stage. I don't know if it was actually said out loud, so I feel like it needs to be said. You were given a special award while you were on the main stage, correct? I don't know if everyone knows like what that award is, so I just want to make sure that everyone knows. What were you given while you were there?
Yeah, I received the golden hoodie last year. Yeah, pretty big deal.
So awesome. So awesome. And what does that mean to you?
There was a little bit of confusion, like, what's a golden hoodie? Like, who all gets them and when and why?
Yeah.
To me, it means anyone that, well, for my particular situation, I would think that I received it for being a multiplier, spreading the word about Pathfinder and just like my particular journey and letting anyone else know that if they're wanting a career change and they're wanting to get into technology, Salesforce in particular, that they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
The Trailblazer episode, like, it dives more into like a lot of the hardships and obstacles I faced, like getting here. So I think like when people do see the film, they'll really understand why I got the golden hoodie.
Yeah.
Real. Yeah.
I'm excited about seeing that one. I think it came out in the last couple of weeks, right?
It'll be
Or is your episode not yet?
Yep, March 10th is mine. Mm-hmm.
Your episode is March 10th. Okay. I will mark my calendar. We might have to, are you guys having a watch party? What's happening here?
I'm not sure.
I was just thinking we should do that for WIT.
You should have a WIT watch party. I will come and bring my popcorn from afar for sure.
Done.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today and chatting with us. I love your story. It's really cool. And I love the particular people that you touched along the way. And I can't wait to hear more about it on the March 10th Popcorn WIT event as well. We're definitely going to do that. So congratulations. It seems very well deserved for your golden hoodie. And it's just so cool. So cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take maybe 5 minutes to open it up. And if we have any, and there's been a couple of chat questions through the crew. If anyone has any specific questions that they wanted to call out to either of our people, I would be happy to have them answer. Otherwise we can kind of move on, but I'll raise hands, or you can just kind of take yourself off mute and ask a specific question. Love to hear them.
Marquita, do you see yourself doing much coding these days? It sounded like when you first kicked off your journey, you were on the path to being a software developer. Are you coding much or sticking with flows and utilizing the technology?
Yeah, I had to come back on video for that so you could see my face. Something I did not mention. When I got into those software development courses, it was almost a wrap, because it's like, as anyone that codes knows, it's learning a new language, and I almost did not stick with it, but I powered through and did finish. I love code. I love what it produces, but I'm more of a clicks gal. So admin for life over here. Now I will dibble dabble every once in a while, like I'll click as far as I can go, but yeah, but who knows?
Yeah, I'd say that golden hoodie represents a bit of courage that you had for jumping in. You went from one extreme to, I'm going to be a software developer, and it's amazing. So congratulations. It was very inspiring.
Thank you.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions for either of our folks? Going once, going twice. All right. So just again, a huge thank you to all of you for coming in today. We really appreciate our speakers who came in and gave us their stories and had the courage to come and say when things did or didn't work out for them. And I'm just, it sounds like you guys have a really great team that you guys are working with and being encouraged by, and I just love it. So thank you so much for that. And again, thank you to all the people who participated today. Love the questions that came through, love the encouragement that came through, and I appreciate that you guys all kind of took time to come and hang out with us today. And Pomi, I think when is our next one is coming up in March, is that right?
Yep, I'd say look out about mid-March, about a month from now. So maybe about the 16th or so.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Unless anyone has anything else, I think that we're going to wrap.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all for coming today.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Have a great day.
Bye.